Hello and welcome to Lost in Chronologically Lost, where this time we finally get to the first episode.
The plane crash.
The plane crash. I should say, just as a heads up, it has been quite a while since we have recorded the last one, mostly due to me.
You won't know
so
about
if
that.
we- if
You get this a week after what? You get this a week after the last one. For us, is it a month more? I don't know.
It's been at least 3 weeks.
Yeah.
So if, hopefully I at least remember this being my third time through, but don't go too hard on us if we have forgotten things from the previous episode.
Yeah. What was this show about again? Who's Jack?
I think it was about a guy named Gilligan who got on a boat trip to an island.
Yeah.
I think that's what it was about.
Yeah.
For real. Where do we begin with this one?
We
Matthew?
begin at the beginning because I really expected this to just open up like the show, like wherever the pilot really first opened up. I expected this to be like practically just the original first episode, and instead it opened up with Desmond.
Right. Well, I mean, the cliffhanger of the last one was Desmond, accidentally killing Mr. Krabs, so they gotta pick up on that.
Yeah. So he's running back. He's got to get back to the button, and we know he's gonna mess it up.
Right. So he gets there, and it's a little too late. The numbers have turned into Egyptian hieroglyphics.
Yeah, I think, okay, the main thing we gotta say about this part is that there is a lot of split screen, so
This is the most.
if I
split screen there
missed
is in the
things,
entire show, so
you'll have to tell me what I missed, because, the Egyptian hieroglyphics are, I definitely remember seeing that, but there was so much going on that I did not even process what does that mean.
The Egyptian hieroglyphics were a huge thing when people got shown them. They're like, oh my god, why is it Egyptian hieroglyphics when it runs out? And oh my god. And it's like, there's no real answer. Like, it's just like, oh, I guess Radzinski decided to put Egyptian hieroglyphics on there for some reason.
Is it so back during the 70s arc, there was a point where, the woman's dead husband had, an Ankh necklace, and it was just oh yeah, they just put in some random ancient Egypt thing, just, random things for the fans to latch onto, but it doesn't actually mean a thing.
Yeah, again, all the ancient Egypt stuff is, you'll see hieroglyphics in other places. Like, we've seen them when they went to go get the hydrogen bomb, the sort of area it was in had a bunch of hieroglyphics. They're in there in places, and you can translate some of them into actual sort of sentences. They're not important. Don't know what to tell you.
They're just, ancient graffiti.
Basically. Yeah, so we get a lot of split screens. We have everything going on. Obviously, they're never on the screen all at the same time, but everything we have going on is we have Juliet at her book club. We have Desmond failing to push the button. We have Jack talking with Rose. We have Charlie doing heroin stuff, and we have Kate talking to the marshal just all at once.
Yeah, there's so much. Look, what did I think? There's a lot of this where I'm not sure if I just had the reactions I wanted to because it was so hard to process. I kind of wonder. I feel like I'm not sure why Charlie attracted the attention from the flight attendants. He was just tapping, man. I mean, then he went to the bathroom to do heroin, but I don't think they should have been able to know that.
I think before the crash, it's better if we just go through these one by one than all at once. So we have...
Yeah.
Let's, start with Jack. He's nervous because they're going through turbulence. And he's sitting right across from Rose, who...
Yeah, also, let's not forget the flight attendant just gives him some harder alcohol because he asks for it.
Right, yeah. I mean, that's just a thing that happens. For some reason, in these 3 weeks that we've been off, I've watched a lot of pilot and flight attendant videos for some reason, and they've mentioned doing that to passengers they like, so...
Oh, wow. Oh, okay then.
Well, if they don't do that, then they basically just take it for themselves for the night when they land.
Yeah. Well...
yeah, so I should say the flight attendant's name is Cindy, just because she'll be, a minor character, as you'll see later. She's with Ana Lucia's group, basically.
Oh, yeah. I did not recognize her then. I
Yeah,
think
same
at some
one.
point I think at some point she's in my notes as woman I don't recognize.
Yeah, that's the flight attendant.
But
So
anyway,
he's talking with Rose, and they're nervous, and she's like, just gotta remember my husband says, oh, the planes want to stay in the air. So,
planes don't get what they want.
yeah, and he
But,
has
well,
gone to the
the
bathroom, which...
So the thing I noticed, I only really clicked, I noticed this later, but they don't show Bernard, and we only see Bernard in Ana Lucia stuff, and I know because we've talked about it on a meta level that Ana Lucia stuff is season 2 stuff that's mixed in with this. They're somewhere else, but is for the entirety of season 1, do we just not even know what Bernard looks like, and it's this whole build up of like, oh, are we gonna find her missing husband, and then they actually find each other?
Well, you also have to wonder is if you had just been watching this just in season 1, would you probably have just assumed that Bernard is black? Like I probably would have if I didn't know he was. If I hadn't seen it before, right?
They wanted to do, I mean, it's not like it's exactly the 60s anymore, but still multiracial couples. Nice. Good for you, show.
We have Charlie, who's, jittery and with the flight attendants and ends up going to the front bathroom thing to do heroin and throwing it in the toilet. And
his heroin is in his shoe. Don't you have to take your shoes off when you go through security?
Maybe he had it in his sock.
I feel like that would be noticeable, but whatever.
Yeah, I want to feel like if it's that small amount of drugs, I don't know, maybe you could probably get away with going through. I don't know anything about the logistics of drug smuggling on commercial airlines.
Oh, really? I thought you were experienced in that.
Hey, I only learned about the legal stuff. Let's so yeah.
Anyway,
Kate
there's
is, talking with
so
I should say the marshal's talking to her.
Okay, I didn't process all of this because it was so split screen and happening so fast. Did any of this really matter? It's just him doing more of his gloating.
Yeah, basically. I like to think it's like, oh, hey, you never know, you could get lucky. Maybe they'll believe you. Like...
Yeah, so then there's the Others book club, and some guy is like, science fiction is terrible, and Juliet's rightfully like, fuck you, I love this book.
And yeah, he makes a thing saying, oh, Ben wouldn't like this book. And she says, well, it's my choice. I'm the host this month, so it's my book, right? And
one of my favorite authors has a great quote where he says, fantasy is great because you can do everything that realistic genres can do, and there's also dragons. Likewise, science fiction is great because you can do everything that other genres can do, and there can be robots and spaceships. People who are elitist about those genres, they're just idiots.
Exactly. So here's kind of just an interesting thing. So we actually get a shot of the sort of basically the whole plane crash happens.
Yeah, which was kind of cool and cinematic.
Yeah, it was very cool. And
the thing is, because it was so split-screened, I feel like I just didn't get like the initial impact and shock of the plane falling apart that I think was probably there if you just watch the pilot normally.
Well, when you watch the pilot normally, you don't... I want to say you don't see it until a flashback. Maybe Kate. Maybe you see it from Kate's perspective.
Oh yeah, because she says later that she was awake.
Yeah, because Jack doesn't remember. A lot of people took this to mean that, oh my god, Jack's the main character and he doesn't even remember the crash because he died. God. And it's like, no! It's like everyone remembers the crash except for him. It was a convenient segue to...
just the pacing, man.
Right. Because the very opening shot of the show is Jack waking up in that bamboo forest. So that's...
Okay.
But
pretty good.
From Juliet's perspective, you get to see it actually break up in the air.
Yeah, that was real cool looking, honestly.
Yeah, and you'll see Jack try and understand what happened. He's like, oh, we hit an air pocket and blah, blah, blah. The real answer is electromagnetism pulled the plane down and then ripped it apart. So...
Yeah, that kind of explains why why it broke into pieces in the air.
Right, and as we'll see in this first part, it broke into 3 pieces. You have the tail section with Ana Lucia, you have the main fuselage with Jack, and then you have sort of the front part where the only survivor was the pilot who is then killed. But when Ben sees this, he goes, "Oh, Ethan, you go to the main part. Goodwin, you go to the tail section." And he doesn't send anyone to the front part. And the reason for that is this front part of the plane is never going to come up again. Like,
I can imagine.
They got the transceiver. The pilot died. The end. There's nobody there.
Also, I kind of just find it funny how, like, the others don't know about Desmond or Mr. Krabs. They had no idea. I don't think. Maybe it's possible they did, but it seems like they didn't. They had no idea someone was, like, managing that all this time.
I have to wonder about that.
Okay, maybe if they did know, you know more than me, but
theoretically, I know in my mind that they should know about Desmond. I don't know if they knew about Desmond specifically. I think they knew there was someone there because obviously when they wiped out Dharma, they didn't wipe out Mr. Krabs, right? So I don't know.
So then,
also, I should note that when the plane sort of starts crashing, the marshal gets hit in the head with some thing. So Kate, takes the handcuff keys and unlocks herself.
Oh yeah.
But after she puts on the O2 mask, she does also put it on the marshal because she's not, horrible.
Yeah, Kate is a good person. I am pro Kate.
Right. Oh, also I should say that the whole thing with Juliet and the book club, and then it showing the plane crash, that was like the season 3 opener of like, oh my god, here's where the others live in this place. But we were no. And
okay,
also,
so see, the thing is, I was gonna mention that next. We got the big dramatic cuts and this super dramatic music, and I'm just like, okay,
and
this had to be the original reveal.
It's CG'd in a ton of more houses than there actually are, and it feels like that feels like how many there should be, but there's not. There's like 6.
So whenever they see the others before that, they don't know they're in a whole nice summer camp facility.
I mean, basically, it'll come up later, as we'll see in this episode, or maybe the next one. So we have Ben being, creepy, just as usual, and now we get to the tail section. So we see the tail section fall from the sky, land in the water, and so I'll say everyone who's in this tail section, I'll just tell you, just maybe it'll be easier to keep track. So we have Ana Lucia, Mr. Echo, Bernard, Libby, the flight attendant Cindy, and Goodwin was sent there. That's everyone in the tail section. Everybody else is either in the fuselage or they're part of the other, so it doesn't matter.
So, I mean, we see them start to try to survive. It's, interesting, I guess, and they try to help this kid, and then the sister's drowning. Ana Lucia tries to do CPR, and I'm like, come on, do some compressions. Don't just breathe in her mouth. But then she does do some compressions and actually saves her.
Right. Then we see a weird scene. Now, this is the first of these. These were like little webisodes that they made between seasons 3 and 4. The whole thing with Vincent and, the ghost of Christian Shepherd.
I kind of did wonder, like, where would this even go? And it makes sense it would be a webisode.
Yeah. Most of the webisodes, there's maybe one that is plot related. Like this, you didn't need this. You could just have Vincent walking up and there's
Vincent
one I can't wait for you to see because it's not plot related at all, but it's the funniest fucking thing I like in the entire show. So they really use this for comedy, or at least just unimportant stuff.
Well, I mean, Jack's dad trying to be less terrible even when he's not alive doesn't really affect anything.
Well, at least not yet.
Yeah. So then, so we get the
forest with some
opening
on
shot.
The trees, and we also see Locke here, and Lock and Walk wakes up instant.
So he gets up, he wiggles his toes. It's almost a Tarantino scene, and he can just walk. Why?
The island is special.
It's just I mean, he saw that guy. No. Rose and Bernard saw that guy, and he said, "Oh, there are special places with energy," and I guess that means if you just if you're just paralyzed and you just land on the island at all. Not even like talk to Jacob or go somewhere special on the island. Just land on the island. You just become able to walk. Okay then.
Right. So back when this show was still pretending that it would not use magic to solve all of his issues, it was kind of a thing among fans, like, oh, somehow, is the island magic, or was it just like the shock of the crash, like, just miraculously shifted his spine back in the right place or something, right? Because there was that,
that is less likely
it's
than magic. That is much less likely than magic.
Yeah, but see, people didn't want it to be magic, which I think is, I'd rather have magic than that. That would be such a stupid coincidence. I'd rather it be magic.
It being magic actually means something to the story in a way where that would not.
Right, so we have Michael, who's looking for Walt. We have Shannon just standing there screaming. We have Claire thinking she's in labor. We have Boone doing CPR on Rose terribly. And then a dude gets sucked into the jet engine.
Yeah, cool shit. Yeah, exciting. Action.
Right, also,
death.
We also see... so Jack is running around doing doctor things. And he gets Hurley to help Claire, and
when he talks to Claire, I'm just like, you people have the same dad. You need to talk about that.
I don't think that's going to come up right now.
Yeah, but they should still talk about it.
Also, so Boone is like, oh, maybe I should get a pen and do the tracheotomy thing, and Jack's just like, yeah, go, yeah, okay, sure. And then we see a cut to a thing, which you can tell because Boone has completely changed his hair, between the shots of where he runs into Nikki and he's looking for a pen.
Yeah. I wasn't even sure if it was Nikki because I got so little of her that I don't recognize her very well.
Yeah, that was her. We have Jack. He successfully resuscitates Rose. Then we have Nikki being trashed, just finding Paulo after this horrific plane crash, being like, "Where's the bag?" Like,
gotta get that bag.
Fucking idiot.
Yeah, and then I think something's blowing up or something, but Jack and Hurley run Claire away from the plane. And Charlie just kind of stands around like a moron.
Well, did he start taking heroin? I forget. I think he was high when it happened.
I don't know.
I think he was high for this.
You know. Either way, it's just such a Charlie moment.
Right. Then we go back to the tail section, and Echo has Cindy look after the kids while he pulls all the bodies out from the water, which is like...
Yeah. Wait. There was one thing you missed. I laughed at the dialogue where Jack told her when they'd fallen on the ground, and Jack told Hurley stay with her, and Hurley's just lying on the ground like, dude, I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah. Hurley, the funniest character.
Yeah, but Echo he's getting the bodies, which is like, damn, Echo's being a good dude.
Yeah, and we have Libby sitting a dude's leg in a very painful way.
She also, so she talks about skiing somewhere. I'm not sure, but I might have been there.
Oh, that's cool.
And I'm not sure if I actually skied there or just had been through there. Is she an important character? Because I kind of was just assuming that only Ana Lucia, Bernard, and Echo and Goodwin matter here.
Well, Libby's gonna just be with their group. As you saw, she never got a full flashback or anything, so...
Yeah.
She just kind of showed up in other people's...
It's kind of jarring to me to be at this point and be like, yeah, I've never seen you before. Who are you? Are you? I'm assuming you're not important because I don't know what happened in your life. I'm only comfortable with knowing someone now if I know their life story.
Yeah, but she's there. She's with their group. And
yeah.
So this is going, and then Goodwin, because he is an
the
other
imposter,
and ran from the middle of the jungle. Saw Bernard and comes up to Ana Lucia saying there's a guy stuck in a tree. So it's actually kind of, hey, maybe good luck that
Yeah. No, Goodwin's a good dude. I think that much should be obvious already.
Yeah, so Anna goes and sort of talks Bernard through not dying, basically.
Yeah, and it's got good scene. Bernard's old, so it's difficult for him physically, but he makes it. He grabs the branch right before the thing falls, and we see the other body just get crushed.
Yeah, so Man, Bernard is really gonna be... He's really regretting that bathroom break. Then we get Ben and Juliet, who are going to the Flame station that Mikhail runs, which is a guy with an eye patch.
Yeah, eye patches are cool.
Right, and yeah, he has them getting files on everybody who was in the crash.
But then he's really here to contact Richard and show, Juliet's sister's alive and has a child, and okay.
And the child is named after Juliet. Clearly.
Yeah, you got us there, Ben. You got us there. You're still not letting Juliet leave, and you say, we'll find more mothers. Maybe there's one on the plane.
Yeah, I think
you're still kind of fucked up.
I'm not a liar, which is like,
That's kind of not the point. That's kind of not the point here.
Yeah. So back to the main thing. The chaos has kind of ended, and Boone found some pens.
Good job. I'm not sure if it's here specifically that I noticed it, but you've mentioned before, during the flashbacks, you could tell when something was from season 1 because it was so much slower. We are definitely seeing some of that slowness here.
Oh, and big time.
There are a lot of points where it's trying to be a lot more movie-like with its, tension and just its camera angles and its build-up. And that's not a bad thing, I'm just not used to it. I'm so used to watching this where things move forward that I got a little impatient with it, but I think a lot of the movie-like moments were good. But one thing I noticed here was I feel like this has a lot of shots that are just close-ups on the characters, and they're focused in a way where everything in the background is blurry. And I'm not sure how I feel about that, just because I feel like in what I've seen from the later seasons, the camera work really shows you what's around them. It shows you their position. It shows you their environment. And right now, it's like I see the characters in close up and I don't even know what's around them, and it feels like a little like I don't have my bearings.
Yeah, it's funny that you say it's like a movie, because one of the things when the pilot was originally being pitched is it had also been pitched just as a TV movie to make that would end at a 2-hour mark, and that would be the end of the whole thing. Also,
and
a funny thing to note
I'm sure if it went that way, they'd just get rescued.
Oh yeah. Also, a funny thing to note is this was at the time. It might still be. I'm not sure. The most expensive television pilot that had ever been made. It cost. It was
on location.
Yeah.
It was on location. They got a lot of actors, good actors. Yeah.
Right. And so much so that the executive at ABC who okayed it was fired for it, even though the Lost ended up becoming like their biggest show ever at that time. So.
Wow, he's got to resent that.
Yeah. But yeah, so it's basically the start of these long, slow, quiet scenes for a long time. Because Jack, he's trying to sew up his own injury, but he can't. So he gets Kate to come sew her up.
So you've talked about there being love triangles. You've talked about Kate or Evangeline Lilly getting hate for that. But I still just, like in the 70s arc, I didn't really get like Jack-Kate content. Now I'm seeing,
immediately.
Okay,
it's immediate.
It's so Jack, Kate, and Sawyer is the love triangle.
Right. We also see Sawyer here, who has really bad hair. And it's a thing where whenever they flash back to the plane crash, they would give him this terrible haircut when he looks so much better in like every other style.
Yeah, and so I will say, I know that Sawyer ends up with Juliet, and they're great, and thus I can kind of think like, oh yay, I know Jack and Kate is probably more likely then, although I don't really know the ending. But I wonder if that'll also just make me get so frustrated by all like the Sawyer-Kate development that won't happen.
It will. It does for me, so.
Yeah. But also, so just the first thing we see for Sawyer is him smoking.
Reading his letter.
That's better than the second thing we see for Sawyer in a bit.
Oh, yeah. We'll get to that in a minute. And so we have Boone, who's showing that there's no cell phone signal on this island, because of course it can't be that easy. We have Saeed starting a signal fire with Charlie. Rose just crying and kissing her wedding ring.
Another thing about it being more movie-like and just being slower paced is we get so many dialogueless scenes. Like so much of Locke here is just him, looking out in the distance, and like there's some dialogue, but we're not getting a huge amount of the characters talking. And if anything, I almost feel like that's kind of in part because the characters aren't super defined yet when it's the pilot episode. So we're not getting like a ton of conversations with them that's like, oh, that's how they act, as we might later, but like I'm so used to how they act from the flashback that it's a little weird.
Yeah, it's even a thing where I find often the first episode of a show, even if it's not the worst episode, obviously because I would say that Jack Tattoo episode is the worst, and there's a Charlie episode, the one with the diaper commercial. That's also probably the second worst episode. But, a lot of the times with shows, their first episode is honestly really bad, or their worst episode. Even my favorite show of all time, I would say the first episode is the worst episode.
Wait, what show?
Code Geass. I would say the first episode is the worst. That's not to say it's bad, but I think it's less good than all the others.
Yeah, I can kind of see that.
And I really feel that with Lost. Obviously, it's not the worst. The worst is both in the past and yet to come due to this format.
Well,
but
I mean, your other favorite show had a great first episode.
Is it Evangelion? Is that the one you're talking about?
Yeah.
You couldn't be an Utena, could you?
Yeah. It's just kind of weirdly slow paced here, and
we have one thing though, where as Kate is stitching up Jack, he tells her the story of his first surgery, but
yeah, there's a contradiction I noticed there.
Yeah, he doesn't include the part with his father in it,
where his dad was the one who told him to count.
Yeah, now the whole thing where we actually see the scene with his dad, that happened 5 seasons later. But it does actually fit really well with the character that he would leave out that part when he's
he's kind of lying to himself because he doesn't want to define himself by his dad.
Exactly, and that part of the story doesn't help anyone. That part of the story.
Now that you say it, now I'm kind of feeling like, oh, they were scraping the bottom of the barrel for Jack backstory, so they thought, oh, we can show this thing he mentioned in episode 1.
Well, they were every time they showed when Jacob meets someone, it always had something to do with something really important to them.
Okay.
Which is
that was a.
Kate
I forgot that was a Jacob moment.
Sun and Jin's marriage, they just picked something that was really important that they just hadn't shown yet.
Okay, I forgot that Jacob was there during the flashback.
Story. A funny thing is that Kate says, "Oh, she was in that scenario. She would have run," which is that fits real well with everything we know.
Yeah,
about her.
I say she's a runner.
Right, and this.
Well, you can't run away from the island.
I want to make about. I don't know if irony is the right word, but the irony of all these characters being here, because we have Locke, who's in a wheelchair but now can walk while he's here. We have Michael and Walt, who have been separated basically
they're
stuck
together,
and they're not stuck together. Claire, who wanted to give up her baby for adoption, she's don't know who she's going to give that up to here, right?
Give it to anyone but Shannon.
We have Jack, whose whole thing is about fixing people, and now he's in a situation that needs constant fixing, basically.
Yeah.
We have Kate, who's always about running away, but now she's stuck on an island, so she can't really run anywhere. Hurley, who's always talking about his bad luck, gets into a whole-ass plane crash onto an island. And we have Saeed, who can actually use the part, at least right now, the part of his military training that wasn't about torturing people.
Yeah. I wouldn't even call the torture actual military training.
Well, not training, but it's a military thing he did. And we have a place where Shannon is now trying to be useful in some capacity in that way. And a place where Boone can't protect her.
Is she trying to be useful?
Even if she's doing it despite Boone, she's still
I don't know about that one. I will say I've liked Boone in these episodes.
I know 5 minutes into the future and she will be useful. So
okay. Look, I've liked. I just want to mention I've liked Boone here. Boone isn't someone I've got a ton of in the backstories, but I feel like he's just been competent. He's not a surgeon, but I feel like he's been focused. He's he's had his eyes on, what they need to do.
Yeah, the thing about Boone is that you'll see a lot is Boone really tries. Yeah. It doesn't mean he always succeeds, but he really tries.
I like that. I like people who, they're doing their best.
And now we go to the tail section, and this will be sort of a running theme with the tail section, which is that they have had everything worse than the main fuselage, because they have no supplies at all from the plane.
Yeah,
whereas the main section at least had some. And as we'll see later, the others are the first to attack the tail section, not the main section.
I have things to say about that, but we'll get to that later.
Right. Goodwin explains all his knowledge by saying he was in the Peace Corps, which, I mean, sure, yeah, good enough line.
Was he? I mean, I don't know what he was doing before he became another.
Yeah, who knows? I think he's theoretically old enough that he could have been born on the island, because 77 people stopped being born, and he's older than, 40, so he could have, but he also could have been recruited, and he could have been in the Peace Corps, so
who knows?
I'm sure the Lost Encyclopedia somewhere has a detailed history as to, but I don't care.
Well, the important thing is he's an imposter.
Right. Saeed says, you'd think people would have come by now, which is they probably would have if this was real life.
Well, I mean, the whole thing where they don't know where the plane is, that I feel like that would make things difficult in real life.
Right. I also have to wonder, you remember a few years ago with the whole Malaysia Airlines thing that we found small pieces of the plane, but never the whole thing. I have to wonder if that had happened a few years earlier, everyone would be being, they're on the island from Lost, that's it. They're dealing with smoke monsters now.
Yeah. Well, Shannon is just convinced that it's fine. She's like, don't give me a chocolate bar. She's worried about her figure.
Which Shannon, some of that feels like that's Shannon, and some of that feels like she's in heavy denial that they're really stuck on this island.
You know what? I wouldn't have expected more from her at this point, honestly.
Neither does... nobody else expects more from her, really, so that checks out.
You know what? If she can prove me wrong, if she can grow, I'll be here for it.
Hurley is handing out all the plane food. He gives double to Claire.
Yeah, she's eating for two.
Yeah, we see, Michael with Walt. We see Jin being super strict with Sun.
So,
Dick.
Okay, there's kind of a trend here where basically I have noticed at this point that there is a difference between who I find interesting and entertaining and likable during flashbacks and who I find interesting and likable during the island. Jin is the big one. Jin was great in the flashbacks. Jin was a good dude in a difficult situation, and he did his best, and he loved his wife genuinely. Now he is just being a controlling asshole, and it only gets worse from here.
Right, and I have to think that maybe it's he went into crisis mode, and this is his version of crisis mode, is to be...
Yeah, I think he's
controlling, especially because he
doesn't want to lose her.
He can't communicate to anyone else.
Yeah, but, I mean, is he, not even... Is it because of him that she's, not revealing she can speak English?
Yes.
Which, yeah, it's come on. At some points it feels like they're not... Okay, later he's, trying to give people food, which is nice. But at one point I was thinking, are they even helping the others, or are they just on their own? But I'll give him that.
Also, I should note that in this scene, they're using different subtitles than they had used for the whole rest of the show, which I just found very weird.
Oh, I did not notice that.
Right.
But anyway, I will say, Jin, suddenly I'm just not in his camp, but Sun is still great. I'm still rooting for Sun, and I feel bad because I still want their relationship to work out, but Sun was already thinking that stuff from the airport about him being controlling and stuff, and her being submissive, and I feel like that's only going to get worse for her right now.
Yeah. Then we see Charlie, who sees Claire, and gives her...
And I'm just like, Charlie, just stay away from her.
Nah, but then they start being all flirty, so...
I don't like this. Well, alright, I'm going to be completely honest here. I'm just going to be honest here. I'm starting to accept that, 40% of the reason I dislike Charlie so much is just I don't like how his face looks.
What? He looks good. I don't even know what your problem is. He looks good.
I don't know. It's not like he looks bad. It's just that he looks like somebody I wouldn't like. I don't know. I acknowledge it. I acknowledge that it's arbitrary.
Okay, so let me see Jack, who is examining the marshal, who's all fucked up from a piece of plane wreckage. Then we have a whole thing where we get Kate's version of what happened during the crash, just to explain it.
Yeah. Also, Jack mentions that he took flying lessons once. I mentioned this for one reason and one reason only.
Why didn't we see a flashback?
Just that would have been a much better flashback than the tattoo shit. Like, oh my god.
Like, imagine, like, what if the tattoos had something to do with his, like, flying buddy or something? That would have been more interesting.
It doesn't need to have anything to do... It doesn't even need to have conflict. I would literally just take Jack having a chill time, taking some flying lessons over the goddamn Thailand flashback.
Yeah, now my question to that is, Jack, when the fuck did you have time to take flying lessons? Like...
Oh yeah, that too. You're a surgeon.
Yeah, don't you just go play golf in your me time and, I don't know, have problems with your wife, like, and spy on her? Isn't that what you do in your free time?
You know what, he said he only took a couple. He probably tried it and then it was like, you know what, I don't have time
I like to think he took one.
He's like, he realized that he needed to spend that time stalking his ex-wife.
Right. Then we have some trees falling down menacingly in the background.
So this is the smoke monster, right?
This is the smoke monster. And here's the thing. It just makes no sense for the smoke monster to do this.
This just seems like a don't worry about it.
Yeah, later, a lot of people when this came out, they're like, oh my god, what if it's dinosaurs? Dinosaurs on the island.
Okay, I did say in one of our first episodes, what if this is the Jurassic Park island?
Exactly. Walt thinks maybe it's Vincent, which is like, sure, buddy.
But yeah, they have all this tension. What could be doing that? What's making the noise? And I'm just here. And it's like, this is another thing. There's like a cool camera shot of like moving camera, everyone who's a main character coming up to look. And it's doing all this tension of like, what could it be? And I'm just like, yeah, I'm not worried about that. I know it's the smoke monster.
Right. Then we go back to the tail.
And also, one other thing. It feels so J.J. Abrams that, like, here in the pilot, they're not even showing what the monster is. And, like, later, it's like, yeah, just a smoke monster.
Yeah, it's, you know, I know a lot of people started hating on J.J. Abrams for the final Star Wars movie, number 9. But I just like to say, I was hating J.J. Abrams before it was cool, okay? I didn't like his work way back to this, okay? So y'all come at me. I knew he was a bad director. We go back to the tail section, and Bernard is asking Echo if he found Rose.
Yeah, and Bernard and Rose are both going through some shit. I feel for them here. And Echo, all Echo can say is he'll pray for her, and
then you know, it makes a thing of saying, where are the rescue planes? And basically Echo's way of saying they're not coming is, I'll pray for them too. Like,
yeah.
He seems to have accepted that they're stuck.
And so they hear something and they see Echo with a rocket. I think he killed the others attacking. And all I can say is, I was confused by this scene. I didn't quite get what was happening. So
yeah. Yep, makes sense.
It was others attacking, Echo defending them by hitting them with rocks and killing them, right?
Yes.
Okay, I kind of guessed that it was that because that was the only thing that would really make sense. But when I first saw it, I was like, are these other survivors that Echo decided to kill for some reason? No, they're not getting mad at Echo, so it can't be that. But even then, I'm kind of confused at why Echo's, like, decision was to just try to kill them. Like, could he tell they were hostile? It was just kind of unclear to me.
And so it was the others were abducting people, and they took some. And they make a thing of they're not wearing normal clothes. They're like all jungle people, which is weird considering we know they have.
I did like that.
Clothes.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. That kind of harkens back to a thought I went through a long time ago, where because we saw them in the 50s, I expected the others to just consistently be like this jungle people group. And then later it's like, oh no, they took the Dharma facilities and started acting like Dharma. They became this, New Age cult vibe kind of place. But then now at the start, we're still getting that, oh, are they jungle people kind of thing.
Right. Which makes sense for now that they would disguise themselves, right?
Yeah, it does.
Maybe they were. Maybe there'll be points later where it doesn't make sense, and then points even later where they retroactively explain why it made sense. It's they didn't know really what to do with the others for a while.
J.J. Abrams.
Yeah. We have. They're arguing over whether or not they should stay on the beach or go inland.
Oh, I'm sure that'll be a common thing.
And Cindy says, we lost communication, so we flew for hours in the wrong direction.
Oh, yeah, it was...
Which is what they have to go to the cockpit to find out in the main crew.
It was kind of confusing to me because she gave, like, a really brief, undetailed explanation, but I got that before the actual full explanation, so I was confused by it until later.
Yeah, it was just like, here's how they know what the main people had to go on a trek to know. And here's the thing. So they're going to go on this hike to the cockpit. So Kate steals shoes to go hiking. I'd say this is my nightmare because for me, I have very large feet. So shoe shopping is already a nightmare. I couldn't imagine having to try and is there anybody else on the plane with like size 13, 14 feet? No? Fuck. Like...
Yeah, and there's
the weird... creepily smiles at her.
Yeah, he has... Yeah, and like I was like, oh, is he trying to cheer her up? But then she just does not react happily to it at all. Just like... This was still at the point where I hadn't even gotten any Locke dialogue yet, and it was just kind of like in the first episode, what is your impression of Locke supposed to be when you don't see him doing anything and he just kind of stands around?
A lot of people did take the impression that it was like a fun kind of little thing with the orange. They did not intend it to be that way. I believe the script says it's supposed to be creepy.
Yeah, like his Locke's supposed to be this creepy old guy at the start.
They wanted him to be the creepy old guy at the start, but nobody was buying it. People liked him. So
yeah, so they went with that, I guess, because I'm just so used to Locke being like, my dude.
Right, yeah. Also, I should note, they crashed on September 22nd, which is, of course, the day that the pilot was aired. Just as a funny,
nice
kind of thing.
Also, there's a conversation and Hurley is like, they should do something about the bodies, and he just spells it wrong because he's like trying to not talk about death to Walt, and Walt corrects his spelling.
Yeah, Hurley, just you mean so well, but then we have Kate, Jack, and Charlie going on this hike to the
which I don't know.
That Charlie tagged along on just so he could go retrieve his heroin.
I don't know how I feel about Charlie being like one of the mainest characters.
Right. So Kate knows who Charlie is from.
Yeah, from his terrible song.
Yeah. Okay.
Also, he says like, oh, I'm in the band. I play bass. I do backing vocals, and I'm like, I thought he was like the main guy.
Yeah. I don't care about band dynamics. I'm just fine, whatever.
All right. Well, anyway, he says that their band is in a comeback, and I mean, he's wrong, but sure, makes sense for him to be lying to himself about that.
Yeah, why not lie about it? Like, who is she gonna check? Like,
she's not gonna Google if your band is releasing anything in the next month.
Right. We see Vincent also.
And he like is like looking at them secretly, like he's like acting like all sinister. But he's a dog.
Right. Then we get some really fake-looking rain because it's from a rain machine. And I should say, I think they will use rain machines a couple more times maybe throughout the series, but they eventually learned that they don't need to use rain machines because they're in Hawaii. It will rain all the time. If you want to shoot a rain scene, you can just wait and it will happen. Like, it's so, whenever I see a rain machine scene, it's like, oh, that's weird.
I noticed here the character interactions are very utilitarian. They're focused on surviving, which it makes sense, but it's also not giving me all the crossover episode feelings I want yet. Like, they're not talking about themselves. They're just talking about like what they gotta do.
Right. The smoke monster's doing shit again while Locke is just sitting in the rain enjoying it because
he can stand.
Yeah, he can walk now, so everything's amazing for him.
He can stand it.
Oh my god. Okay. So they find the cockpit. Everybody in the front section is dead except for the pilot. So they learn that they find, of course, the transceiver.
Well,
is
wait. I mean, we have the whole tension, slow scene of them climbing up the.
No, we're skipping past that because that's really boring.
I just want to mention that another thing I noticed about the visual style of the early show is the lighting and color grading are so much darker and more moody.
Exactly. I don't like it.
Yeah. I mean, I get the atmosphere they're trying to give off, but also I like how bright and colorful in Hawaii the later stuff is. But, anyway, I want to mention, we get the pilot waking up. Don't skip to what the information we get is. I like the pilot. I think he's a good dude. I think it's a shame he died, because the first thing he asks is how many survived. And he's like, how long was it? Pilot did nothing wrong.
Yeah, okay. So, the transceiver's not working. Charlie secretly gets his heroin from the bathroom. And then the smoke monster rips the pilot out of the plane.
Yeah. I still, don't fully get, why the Man in Black chooses to kill who he does. Does he just pick randomly for the fun of it? I don't know.
No, there's an explanation. It'll be a while, but there will be an explanation.
I'll wait for it.
Oh, yeah, you'll be waiting. So, they run away. Kate does the whole count to 5 thing. They look for Jack, and they find the pilot's body all skewered on a tree.
You're skipping over all the slow, movie-like scenes of tension and build-up.
Good.
Because nothing happens during them.
Right. I should say that when this pilot episode was originally designed, it was not the pilot's body that they found in that tree. It was actually going to be Jack.
Oh.
Yeah, they were gonna kill him in the first episode. It's like a shock to the viewers.
Yeah, no, Jack is good. I'm fine with Jack staying alive.
Yeah, but someone on the executive team, both because they ended up liking Matthew Fox, who was doing the whole thing as Jack, they also said, if you do this, the audience will never trust you again. So you can't lie to them to this degree.
I mean, this was, in the mid-2000s, this was before the whole trend of, liking shows where anybody can die. That became a thing, a decade later. But, I don't know, I kind of think, if it's more interesting if the character stays alive, just keep him alive.
Yeah, I mean, look, people are going to die throughout the show of Lost. Yeah. They're just not going to kill the main character in episode 1, basically. That's their limit. So they find Jack just nonchalantly because they didn't write the scene like that for them to find him. Kate says a thing to Charlie that he's not a coward. So look, you're gonna be getting Charlie build up.
He's kind of a coward. Look, that I like cowards who do their best anyway. I do not feel like Charlie is doing his best yet.
Well, not yet. I mean, but he will.
Yeah.
Then we get to Shannon sunbathing.
Oh, what else would I expect?
She's so terrible, but it's amazing.
It just makes me feel bad about the Shannon we once had, the girl who wanted to learn to teach dance and do all these, have dreams, and now she's like this, and it's not her fault. Claire thinks Shannon and Boone are a couple, which you only knew. Claire and I were both onto something. Both Claire and I initially met the two and were like, there's something here, and we're right.
Right. Claire says she can't feel the baby. We see Jen
also,
fishing.
wait, there's a Shannon thing where Shannon, very sarcastically calls Boone, oh, he's God's gift to humanity, and I'm like, Shannon, you were the one who wanted to get frisky with him.
Yeah, but it's also Boone is always trying to do the most, even when he's not that great at it. So Claire, she can't feel the baby. We see Jin fishing. Michael looking for Walt shows up. And Sun pretends that she doesn't know English.
Yeah, and Jin even makes her, button up her shirt, which is just...
Dick.
Why is present Jin like this?
I know. It's awful. So Walt is out looking for Vincent, but instead he finds Kate's handcuffs.
Yeah, I really expected it to be some thing of like, oh, are they gonna wonder who among them? There's a criminal among us, and we didn't really get that, and I wonder if it's just gonna come later.
Right. So Sawyer and Sayid are fighting because Sawyer's being racist.
Because just literally, like
racism.
this is how we first get introduced to Sawyer. I got first introduced with Sawyer of him being reasonably competent, the tough guy of the group, a little rough around the edges. And then I got him being an interesting con man with an internal struggle. But no, the way I was supposed to first meet Sawyer was him being racist.
Yeah, saying that Sayid's a terrorist who flew up the plane. It's just like, fuck off.
I feel like it would be very reasonable to spend the entire show just thinking, you know what? I don't like Sawyer because he was racist to Sayid. Unless he, like, specifically grows out of that and apologizes, I feel like it would be very valid to dislike him for the rest of the show just for this.
I mean, he's not gonna apologize, but you saw how different their dynamic was back in the 70s, right? So.
Well, kind of, but even then, I feel like they were kind of at odds. They were at odds,
but it wasn't because of race. It was because one of them wanted to kill a 12-year-old.
Yeah, okay. Okay, yeah, you got me there. Sayid did want to kill a 12-year-old. To be fair, we do know for a fact that that 12-year-old is fucked up.
Well, that's basically Sayid's entire argument.
It's like that we were talking about that meme for unrelated reasons a few days ago, but that guy in Brooklyn Nine-Nine being like, who we killing? I won't do kids unless the kid's a dick.
Oh yeah, oh Pimento, so great. So we also have Sawyer just being rude to Hurley, which don't be mean to Hurley, Sawyer. What?
And then we get Sayid and Hurley, being bros together, and this is where I'm like, okay, some characters who I liked in the flashbacks I don't like now. Sayid and Hurley, they are still the dudes.
Right, and it's like Hurley. He honestly gave Sayid the benefit of the doubt when Sayid's like, "Oh, I learned it in the army in the Gulf War." He's like, "Oh yeah, what part were you in?" And he's like, "Yeah, no, I was on the other side." Like,
awkward. Very awkward, but you can't let that come between you.
Right. We also have a scene of Kate bathing because, of course, they decide they're going to go on a hike to get a signal. Now, this is pretty much the only time you'll ever see them actually going up one of those mountains.
I feel like I don't think the crew wanted to have to film that again.
Yeah, no. Everything else will just be mostly in the valleys.
Yeah, the valleys are nice.
Yeah, and they're easy to film on.
So I will say I liked... Wait, there was just the one movie-like moment that I really liked was when the camera showed the mountain and was panning up and then cut back to Kate looking at it and then cut back the mountain and panned it up, then cut back to Kate and cut back the mountain, and only the third time did it finally reach the top. And I just thought that was a really good visual storytelling technique to really just show just how tall the mountain was, how much they had to climb. I did really like that.
Yeah, that's good. I guess I didn't feel like that because we've already seen a lot of exterior shots of the whole island, so I felt like I already had an idea at least. Also, we see Jack. He's trying to fix up the marshal, and he does an interesting thing, which I think was cool just for the medical scene of it, where they said, "Oh, I thought you said we shouldn't pull out the shrapnel because he could bleed out." And he says, "Yeah, that's when I thought we could get him to a hospital, but if that's not going to happen, then we need to take it out."
Which he needs the antibiotics for it. I'm not confident he's going to get those.
Right. Then we see Jin being a dick again, and Sun, in defiance, unbuttons her very top button of her shirt.
Oh, Sun. I'm rooting for you, Sun. You're going to get there.
We all are.
And I still don't know how they will reunite and what was happening to her in season 5. It's going to be so long before that gets resolved.
You will, though. You will. Eventually.
So also, the other...
He tries to get Hurley to eat some seafood.
Funny thing here, I was thinking, man, I just don't get that much dialogue from the characters in this episode. That's weird. And then I was like, oh yeah, these two speak Korean. That's part of why.
Yeah. We also have Walt reading a comic book in Spanish. And this is also a weird thing that's a mystery. It's like, oh my god, why is there a Spanish comic book? Well, Hurley was reading it. Hurley speaks Spanish. That's why.
And Michael is like, we'll get you another dog when we get home.
Like, oh, fuck, Michael, you don't understand.
You don't know what you're doing here, Michael.
Yeah, we see Charlie doing, heroin.
Oh, wait, also, I want to mention, Jin giving the food to Hurley. What was that Jin was making?
I have no idea.
I noticed earlier, I feel like he was picking, up, sea urchins. It's like he cut open the sea urchin to get the meat. Look, my point is...
You can.
My point, and this might have been that, I'm not an expert on what color sea urchin meat is, but point being, would you have eaten it?
If I was starving after a plane crash, yeah. I wouldn't go order it in a restaurant, maybe, unless it was part of sushi or something, then I'd try, maybe. But just raw that, I'd probably try it if I was hungry enough like that, yeah.
Yeah, well, Hurley was not hungry enough, and I'm not sure I'd be hungry enough either.
Shannon is also moping, saying she regrets being mean to the gate agent.
And she's just like, I have been through trauma, and yeah, you're being useless.
Yeah, and Boone's like, we all have. What are you talking about? And
she's like, you don't know what I'm thinking. And he's like, what are you thinking? And she has nothing to say. So she just panics. Is like, I'm going on the hike.
Right.
And Charlie decides to join the hike because he's horny.
Yeah. And so we have a thing of them climbing stuff in a montage. And the music that plays in the scene. Did you have any note about it?
I did not think about it, honestly.
Right. So this is the song that I hate in Lost. They've used it a few times, and I don't like it every time they use it. It bothers me.
Yeah, well...
we have a scene with Jack and Michael where Jack is like, oh, I saw Vincent.
Yeah. And that's good. Vincent's a good boy. They gotta reunite. And then Locke is setting up... We get a Locke-Walt relationship, and I wonder, is Locke and Walt going to be a consistent character dynamic?
Right, and,
because
Walt makes the things after he tells him, that his mom just died and he lost his dog and he's having a plane crash. And Locke is like, you're having a bad month.
Yeah, Locke knows what it's like to have a bad month.
Yeah, and here's the thing. So Locke, he explains the game of backgammon, and he holds up a white piece and a black piece and goes, one is light and one is dark, and it's a thing. And people, they point back to the scene. It's like, oh, they knew all along what they were doing. Jacob and the man in black. And no, they fucking didn't. Shut up.
That's the most basic theme, good and bad. Oh, you could totally just reasonably put that in without having a plan because it's gonna tie into something.
Right.
But so, I'm still just wondering, is this gonna be a relationship we see get developed? Because it kind of feels like Walt might be looking for a father figure.
Is it a relationship you'd like to see developed?
I think it could be interesting because... Okay, obviously, it makes me sad that Michael isn't able to be a good father, and I obviously want them to get their relationship worked out. But Walt doesn't feel like he's in a position to open up to Michael. And if he has to look to someone else for a father figure, I think that wouldn't be a bad thing for him, because he needs support. And I also think that it might not be a bad thing for Locke to sort of mentor someone young. I feel like Locke is in a position where he just needs something to sort of give him a little more self-worth, a little more purpose. So I don't know, I think it could be interesting.
Yeah, that would be very interesting if it develops. So Jin eventually gets Claire to eat the seafood.
Yeah.
And after she eats it, she feels the baby kick. So that's
she makes him feel it.
Funny scene.
And Jin didn't want to touch her, and I'll kind of give it to him that I feel like in the same way where Jin doesn't want anyone talking to Sun, I guess he is not putting on a double standard. He also doesn't want to be touching other women when he has his wife.
Yeah.
But she just makes him do it anyway. And he's like, oh yeah, the baby is kicking.
Right, and she says, oh, it's a he. That she's just intuited that out.
Yeah.
And then the hike people find a polar bear that Sawyer shoots.
For a moment, I was like, oh, is this just the monster? And then I was like, no. The monster before was knocking down trees. That was the black smoke monster. This is something else.
Yeah, and this was a huge thing. Oh my god, a polar bear? Yeah. How's there a polar bear?
Even the camera was very slowly revealing what color this bear was. And honestly, just I remember because some of our episodes have been posted now, and I've been re-listening to them, and I remember I said at one point, "Wow, I know that all the mysteries of the show are like the heart of the island and the smoke monster and Jacob and Richard." But I predicted there was a point early in the show where one of our major mysteries was literally just why are there polar bears there, which feels so silly and small scale compared to what's really going on. And now I finally got it. An episode ending on all, there's a polar bear?
Yeah, but yeah, it's in the beginning. It's the very first episode that becomes a mystery. So that is it. We are, I'd say, maybe like 2/3 of the way through the pilot episode now. So what do you think now that we're actually on the island?
I'm definitely interested. It's definitely delivering a lot of what I wanted. But I feel like my main takeaway is kind of just like how different this season 1 stuff feels to the stuff I'm used to. I'm surprised at how jarring it is to me.
Yeah, it really is. Is it really feeling like the ultimate crossover you wanted it to be?
Not yet, but I think I'll still get that, just slower. Because, I mean, I know that this is a character-driven show. We get episodes focusing on a particular character, which also are going to give their flashback that I already got. So I think that during those character-focused episodes, I'm going to get more of that interaction I really want to see.
Yeah, that's true. So I'd say anything that's really surprising about the episode 1 island.
Locke just being healed like that. Like, that's just a thing, I guess.
Yeah.
That wasn't what I expected. And also, I do want to mention, like, I don't think it's inherently a bad thing for this to be trying to be very movie-like right now. I think most people would say it's good for a TV show to try and be movie-like and more cinematic. And I think I enjoyed some of those aspects. It's just jarring because I'm used to faster pacing and more things happening.
Yeah, I think you can even tell just with the season 2 scenes of the Tales section. Those scenes are a lot snappier. They get the point across way quicker. So how do you feel about sort of the cast being broken up into 2 sections?
Well, I think that's not bad. I think that just the concept of being split into 2 groups that'll eventually meet is good. I didn't expect, I knew Ana Lucia would be on her own, but I didn't expect Bernard and Echo to be in that group. I think, in retrospect, I should have considered that Ana Lucia probably wouldn't be the only one. But even then, if you asked me to predict who would be with her, I wouldn't have predicted those 2.
Right. I mean, also for that, you'd have to predict that the plane would break up into more than one.
Well, I think I kind of reasonably expected that Ana Lucia, was just gonna end up stuck somewhere different. I'm not sure if I don't think I would have necessarily specifically called the plane breaking in 2, but I think I would have basically expected something like that if I actually thought about it.
I'm pretty sure you could tell that this is the case. But Jack is basically sort of the leader of the fuselage section.
Oh, no, yeah.
And
Anna is
that's the leader of the tail section. So how do you think each of them is going to go in comparison to the other?
Some of them people with Ana Lucia, they gonna die.
Yeah, I mean, some of them already got abducted, so there's that. And we've already had Goodwin doing stuff with the tail section.
They got
an
imposter is among them where, I mean, I don't think we've seen Ethan. I don't know if he's gonna be there. I don't know how he's gonna manipulate them, but I definitely don't trust him.
Yeah. So, what do you want to see in the next couple episodes here?
I want to see more interaction. I want to see dynamics I want to see Jack and Sawyer's dynamic here. I want to see, more Michael stuff in general. I want to see, him talking about his family situation. I want to see Locke do anything. I kind of have a feeling that Locke is not going to be a character who does a lot for a while. Locke is just going to be someone who interacts with others, which is good, but I got so much of Locke just staring around. I mean, if I went down listing character dynamics I wanted to see more, that could go on forever, and I talked about plenty of it before anyway. But
right, one thing I should mention, just because I don't know if you piece this together, because it's supposed to kind of be implied and with the flashbacks that happen, but nobody on the island, at least obviously Mikhail is getting reports on all of them, so he'll find out Locke was paralyzed, right? Because he'll find out everything.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But nobody on from the actual plane knows that Locke was paralyzed before this.
Yeah, no, I did think about that.
Except for Rose. Rose remembers him picking up her pills for her in the wheelchair.
Oh. Yeah,
but everybody else doesn't remember.
See, that's part of why it's so weird for me that he gets healed just like that. Because then, just in terms of, like once it comes up and he mentions it, everyone's just gonna be like, what? Like, it just...
Is he gonna mention it?
Well, I feel like it's gotta come up at some point. I don't know, maybe not he mentioned... I mean, maybe Rose will leak it, but yeah. I want to see who Rose interacts with. That's interesting enough that I want to call it out. Because I really mostly see Rose with Bernard, but now, as they're apart, Rose, who is she going to confide in about how she misses Bernard? I don't know, right. But I want to see it.
One thing I should tell you about Rose is, so you've already seen in the 70s that she and Bernard just kind of fucked off, right?
Yeah. Good for them.
The thing is that when they originally, in season 1, Rose is a main character. She's in the main credits. She's a main character. She's the lead. But after that, I believe the actress didn't like the schedule or something like that. So after that, her role is reduced to just like recurring for the rest of the show. Mm-hmm. So you're gonna get a lot of her, and then she'll slowly fade away until
if anything,
fuck off to the forest.
I feel like once she and Bernard are reunited, that's kind of resolved because they don't need anything else. They could just fuck off to the forest.
That is very true. That's yeah. You know what? Honestly, that's very true.
Like, I'm fine with that being basically the end of their meaningful plotline.
I think that's it. Unless you have anything else left to say.
Give me a minute to think if there is anything else, because there's so many characters to consider. I guess that's it. I'm excited for what happens next. I don't really have any plot predictions. I don't know, where the plot is going to move right now.
Yeah, see, the thing is also, the plot is going to be kind of boring, because a lot of the plot is going to be, well, what is this? And what is this? And what is this? But we already know what they are.
They go find something, and they just wonder what it is, yeah?
Yeah. The polar bear, the smoke monster, where the hell are we? Why is there no cell signal?
And because this is gonna be it's gonna be a survival show for a while, whereas I'm kind of used to Lost being like, we have to blow up this nuclear bomb all of that kind of thing.
Even though I think the nuclear bomb stuff is way more interesting than...
Oh, yeah. No, I'm used to...
Yeah, a lot of it will just be kind of survival stuff. I mean, it's 2004. The show Survivor, literally in its heyday.
Yeah. I wonder if that was, was the popularity of Survivor, even just a subtle influence on this show existing?
It has to be.
They're people...
I can see that it's not.
They're just the concept of people surviving the island. They're like, what if we did this as an actual story instead of reality TV? Why not?
Yeah, exactly. I have to say it's very reality TV influences shows, and shows influence reality TV. I don't think you get, say, Big Brother. I mean, obviously you don't get Big Brother without, 1984, but I think you also don't get it without The Truman Show.
Oh, yeah.
It's, reality and art interact in a very interesting way. Just... but I think we're getting really off topic, so I think we should wrap it up.
Right.
I hope you join us next time for episodes 28 and 29, which are September 23rd to the 24th, 2004, day 2 to 3, and September 25th to the 27th, 2004, day 4 to 6. Wow, these episodes are getting to be a mouthful. Anyway, join us next time.